All right. So today I'm going to be making a follow-up video to a video I made a couple months ago called How to Strafe Like a Demon in Halo Infinite. This time I'm going to elaborate a little bit, show some of my settings, and explain what some of the different settings do, so you guys know exactly what you guys need to be doing to max out your strafe. Um, this will all be for controller players because there's really not a whole lot you can do to optimize your strafe for keyboard and mouse. Um, because WASD, you're just putting in the maximum input values, like just by pressing a button. So, like your strafe is already pretty much maxed out. So I'm gonna boot up a training mode and kind of go over what different settings I use to kind of optimize it. I'm also going to throw in a couple tips about like different ways to strafe, different things you can throw into your strafe to mix it up and make it a little bit harder to track, especially at close range. The further away you get from people, the harder it is to make them miss. So it's important still to think about like how to use cover and how to cut off lines of sight so you're only fighting one person at a time. All that good stuff. I'm gonna have the bots in here, but they don't really matter because as far as I can tell, there's not a whole lot you can do to make the bots miss. And also, I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna have a little controller cam. Not that I do anything crazy. Just so it's there. All right. So first thing you want to do is you need to open up your controller settings and go down to move thumbstick in the controller section. This is where all of your important stuff for your strafe is, and I'll explain what everything does. So the center dead zone, it controls drift. I'll set it to 0 to kind of show what happens. So if I set it to 0, see if I can get it to do it. Because my controller does have drift. It just doesn't seem to want to do it right now. But that'll happen. You'll let go of the thumbstick and your character will keep moving in that direction. Not honestly the biggest deal, and it can be useful to keep your dead zones at 0, but for the movement dead zone it doesn't matter as much. So I just set it. I just find a spot where I don't have any drift, and that's where I set it, and I just leave it there. So I tested it when the game first came out. I got the occasional drift at 7, so I got it at 7.5. So you basically just start at 0 and then raise it up until you never get drift in your movement. Okay. Now for max input threshold, this is what I was calling outer dead zone in the previous video because that's what it used to be called. Um, that controls like how far your controller or how far your move stick has to move before you're going at max speed. So if I set it to 0 and my controller has what we call slow turn, then it's possible that there will be points on my controller where I'm never actually moving at max speed. So that's the opposite of what you want. That's the last thing you want. So what I do, I just max it out. So I'm hitting that max threshold as quickly as possible in my strafe. So I'm basically getting I want to be similar to I want it to be similar to how mouse and keyboard is, where they just press a button and they're already moving at max speed. And then the last thing, this is different. This is something I've been trying out new, is maxing out the axial dead zone as well. what the actual dead zone does is it basically it looks like you draw imagine a D-pad over your left thumbstick. So what it does is anywhere within that cross counts as a maximum input, counts as like all the way right. So if I'm holding my stick to the right, I can be within 15 degrees of the actual like due east, right? I mean within 15 degrees of that due east, and it still counts as a maximum like right input. And the same thing to the left and forward and back. So what this does is it makes it to where it's a lot easier to hit that due east, that due west input that gives you the fastest possible like side to side strafe. I don't think this matters as much as the max input threshold, but once you get used to it, it definitely can have some minor improvement to your strafe. It's not going to be game changing, but at a high level, like any bit of extra strafe speed is going to help you out. And that's really all the settings that you have to tweak. I will show you a couple of different things you can mix into your strafe to make it a little bit better. First off, a mistake I see a lot of people doing is they just do this like little wiggle strafe, where it's just back and forth as fast as you possibly can. And if you look at it from the other POV, it basically just looks like the person's standing still. You're not actually making people miss with that. So you have to mix in some longer strafes. And it's okay to throw in a single bit of that, a single like stutter strafe like that. But you have to do the longer strafes, or else you're never going to make anybody miss. They're just going to be able to just not even touch the right stick, which is the worst thing that you can have. Crouching is very good in Halo Infinite, but in a similar vein, if you just tap crouch like this, your head's not moving enough to make anybody miss. So you have to actually get in there. I wouldn't say necessarily that you have to wait until you like reach the bottom of the crouch, but in a BR fight, that actually can be a good idea to crouch to crouch fully occasionally. Jumping's the classic. I think I jump in this game the least out of any Halo game, but it can still be really, really good when you're up close to somebody. A lot of people play slow sensitivities in this game, and if you're able to jump at the right time, they're not going to be able to track your head when you're really close to them. And then finally, it's a little bit trickier, but using the slide and the slide cancel. Most people, I think, know how to do the slide cancel already, but it's worth mentioning. All you're doing, and I think the slide cancel is best when you're coming out from cover. So like, say I'm fighting a guy here, I back up, and then hit a slide cancel to come around the corner. I think that's going to make me the most mobile while also being in a crouching position, which is different than where they're aiming probably. But all you need to do for that is you need to sprint at the like sprint towards the corner that you're poking out from behind, slide, and then hold exactly like the opposite direction from how you're moving. So if I'm moving towards the overshield, I need to be holding right back towards that wall that I just came from. And you'll cancel the slide. And that may be the most effective way to poke out from behind a corner. Because your options are basically to do a slide cancel or to jump out, which is a little bit more committal and also a little bit slower and easier to shoot, I think, or to just like peek the corner like this, which is actually really good on land, but online desyncs are going to mess you up, and it's online it's almost not even worth trying to peek corners like that in this game until they fix desyncs. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the little strafing video. I think that covers more or less everything you need to know about strafing settings in this game and little strafing mix-ups. Obviously, there's some more advanced stuff like incorporating drop slides as opposed to doing a slide cancel. If you're able to do a drop slide, you can fly out from around a corner way faster than people are going to expect, which is really strong. And there's, I would be remiss not to mention the thruster pack is such a good equipment to use in your strafe, as well as stuff like grapple sliding. There's a lot you can do with strafing in this game. There's a lot you can do to make people miss. But that's the important thing. That's what you got to be thinking about when you're strafing. It's not just spamming back and forth on your stick, right? It's how are people aiming, and how can you make them miss? If the closer you are, the more stuff like a crouch or a jump can help you out. Especially against controller players playing on lower sensitivities. Like it's really hard to track people up close when you're fighting against aim assist and you're fighting against a slow sensitivity. Like your strafe can be really, really impactful, especially when they have to track you for an entire burst. And I think that's probably another good thing is like timing when you do your strafe movements. So when you change direction or when you crouch or when you jump, to be like right at the start of a burst, right at the start of their shot, because it's a lot easier, I feel like, and I think this is probably true for most people, it's a lot easier to track people just in between shots. A lot of people are still used to single shot weapons from Halo 5, or the people who went back and played Reach. Like, sometimes it can be hard to track people mid burst. That's where you're going to be making people miss. Make them miss instead of like, people are going to hit probably one bullet out of the 3, but if you can make them miss one bullet out of the burst, like that's another shot that they have to take in order to kill you. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.